Hey guys, this is John, and I'm playing Reddy in the 3-minute pool on ICC. Let's play e4 against Reddy. He's probably a classically minded player based on his username, so maybe we should take him in the Sicilian. Okay, let's go knight db5. I usually play this way, and a transposition into the Sveshnikov variation is happening right now. I'll play c4, this line. Bishop b7 I'm not aware of, although I probably should be. I'm not going to take that pawn on b5, even though I know that to be critical. So undoubtedly, if he's offering to just let you take the pawn, then, that's probably the principal response. But in a 3-minute game, I just don't know about the consequences of c takes b5, so I'll just play a normal move for this setup. And if he takes on c4, I'll take with my bishop. Probably he'll castle, though. And if I go bishop e2, like maybe then he'll take on c4. Or maybe he won't play c4 at all. He might throw in a queen a5 check. Remains to be seen. But maybe a good practical decision since he's thinking a little bit more now. Let's just see. Johann Echavarria from Colombia is this player. Finally plays bishop g5. Okay, so probably go bishop e2 against that. Because if he goes queen a5 check, I can play b4. So that's no problem. Now I'm ready to castle. We'll see if he undermines with f5 or a more traditional knight e7 type of move. The thing is, now that my king is safe, I might take this pawn. I haven't ruled out that possibility. Let's just pre-move that just to be careful. Or just to play a useful move in the case that he does take. Yeah, it's amazing how in these 3-minute games, the clock just sneaks up on you so quick. I mean, he's already used half his time. And arguably, if I've only put him to one major decision. So, okay, he plays knight e7. Now if I take, I still don't like that so much. I'm just going to reinforce. I'll reinforce my weak knight on d5 that was getting assaulted by the knight and the bishop. And also, he was trying to knock out the pawn on c4 to reduce the defenders on d5. Yeah, every time I see him to do something uncooperative, he starts thinking a lot. So you can see he's already playing a bullet game now.
Check.
Let's just take here. We'll bring the other knight into d5 next move. It almost doesn't matter that the position is close to equal. Okay, now which way do I want to take? I might take with the queen, actually. It seems interesting. C takes, he'll defend this pawn. And I don't think I have much. Although maybe I could do C takes and then eventually take over the C file. Because I have bishop g4, but he also has this bishop pointing at that square. Okay, let's take this way. I'm just curious how he'll play. We'll go rook fd1. And then maybe a3 is what I was thinking. Trying to weaken this a5 b4 mini chain. Plays b3. Okay. I could play c5. He takes. I take with the queen. That opens my bishop a little bit. Let's do that. Does give me better prospects with that bishop. Like if I could at some point get my bishop to d5, that would be perfect. And it would almost assuredly trump his bishop. So like now I'm going to go here. If he takes on e4, I have bishop d5 forking the two rooks. So if I can just plant this guy right on d5, I think he'll be hard-pressed to defend. Maybe he should go a4. Yeah, just kick my queen around a little bit. But now his rook is somewhat tied to this pawn. Let's just go g3. Just want some space for my king. And I'd rather have it be on a dark square like that. Okay, so what to do now? Bishop d5, he takes on b2. I can take c5. Okay, let's just take here. Go rook b1. Again, like nothing amazing. just trying to stem his activity. Okay, king g2. Let's take. Bring our queen over to attack this guy. I can run away if queen h6. Oh, actually, queen takes f7, but yeah, I mean, there's like a breaking point where the moves just honestly cease to matter unless you're blundering your queen or something. So time management in these 3-minute games is just huge. So let's take a look at it. So e6, I usually like to play knight db5 in this position. It's not the only move for white, but it's easy because they usually play d6 as he did, and you get to transpose into a Sveshnikov, as I just showed. They can play in this position bishop b4. And a decent line against that is not to play knight d6, but instead to play a3. And then after
Check.
Bishop takes c3, knight takes c3, d5, e takes d5, e takes d5, bishop d3, both sides castle, and then d4, knight e2. White has the two bishops and black has an isolated pawn, so white should have a slight advantage in this position. I know one line goes bishop g4, f3, bishop h5, and if white wants, they can get both bishops with knight f4, bishop g6, knight takes g6, h takes g6, and then f4, keeping this knight out of e5. And white has a stable advantage. So that's the alternative to the d6 move. So d6, bishop f4, plays e5 because his d6 pawn was under attack. Then bishop g5, a6. Yeah. And we get into one of the main lines of the Sveshnikov. So I used to play c3 all the time, but I played a couple games with the c4 move now because it was recommended in the book I reviewed recently, Modernize the Open Sicilian. So I'm not too familiar with bishop b7. I'm sure taking on b5 is what the authors would probably recommend and what the computer thinks white should do, but yeah, weird stuff like this can happen, and black gets a significant amount of activity while white's king is still in the center. Granted, black has not fully coordinated either. They still need to castle and such, but it just seems like, you know, in a 3-minute game, you don't really want to have to think too long in the opening, and I felt almost ambushed by bishop b7, so I don't want to just go right into the lion's den with taking on b5. So knight c2 seemed like a reasonable move, albeit probably not the best one. He played bishop g5. That's a standard Sveshnikov idea to increase the scope of your dark square bishop. It also prepares f5 in a lot of middle games. After black castles, they can use the rook on f8 to prop up f5. And again, I refuse to take that pawn on c4. Yeah, and I mean, yeah, the position's equal, but I have an extra minute on the clock. I was thinking about taking here, but I think the asymmetrical nature of the position and the structure will give him decent compensation. Like, let's say a takes b5, bishop takes b5, probably take here with the knight, take, and maybe queen b6. I was thinking something along these lines. It's almost like a Benko gambit. White's up a pawn, but the queen side is wide open. Black will get play down there. It's probably not quite best for black either, but... So knight cb4, trying to support the knight on d5.
Check.
Yeah, and if white has an advantage here, it's very slim. Looks like I maybe did take correctly. Thought about c takes d5, but I thought he would just defend his b-pawn, something like that. And I can't really make use of the c-file because I can't put my rook on c1 due to his bishop. So the fact that I can play bishop g4 and guard the c8 square is almost a moot point because he's doing the exact same thing to me. So yeah, this position is very equal. So I took the queen. He went b4, rook f d1. Here. Okay, engine likes my move. a3. Undermine the pawns. b3. And here, according to the computer, queen c6 is a little bit better. So maybe introducing the idea of playing rook d5 and doubling up and triple attacking the pawn on d6. Rook d5 would also hit the pawn on a5, assuming it's still there. Looks like it's kind of hard to trap my queen. Like rook c8, I have queen a4, attacking this guy. But I played c5, he took, I took, and black probably has enough initiative to hold the balance here. But I like the fact that that c5 move gave me scope for my bishop, because previously it wasn't doing much on e2. And he found some good moves, but 20 seconds on the clock. It's killer. Wasn't entirely sure what to do here, but I didn't want to think any longer than I did. I guess what the engine's saying about bishop d5 does make sense. Now, I was afraid he would take on b2 and I might face a decision about which way to capture. Oh, I just have rook db1. Ah, yeah. And he's getting back rank checkmated if he takes my queen. That's just a win of material. Yeah, that was a simple one. Didn't see that. He very well might have fell for this too, with that little time on his clock. That's a nice one. Rook db1. So I took on d4, and I will fully admit that I'm probably a little bit worse here, if anything, now, because he's got this strong pass pawn. g6 is correct. Notice how we're both arranging our pawns on the opposite color, or sorry, on the same color as our opponent's bishop. So that's just to restrict the scope of the respective side's bishops. And he's doing the same thing to mine. So it would be less correct for him to do something like king h8 and then f6, reasoning that, you know, I want all my pawns on the opposite color of his bishop. That seems good, especially when you first start getting better at chess, but that's not how you want to play most of the time. That should only be seen as like a last-ditch defensive effort. Like if you're trying to set up a fortress or something in an endgame. Most of the time you're going to be better off setting up the pawns on the same color as your opponent's bishop to restrict it. Likewise for me, when I played g3 back here, there's probably a lot of people out there, including many of you watching the video, you might have played f3. You see how that's worse according to the computer? That weakens the dark squares too much. When you put all your pawns and pieces on one color complex, you weaken the other one severely. So that just gives him unnecessary chances to infiltrate. And actually my king will be a lot less safe because of this. So we'll just skip ahead a little bit. Yeah, and I guess I missed one thing towards the end. I could have taken his pawn on f7 while he had 1 second left. Like queen takes f7 was just winning, but so was this. Alright, well I hope you guys enjoyed this game. I'll be back tomorrow with another Blitz game. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.